Learning Perigimel Halacha Hey. Rambam begins. Every day of these 8 days, one completes the Halal, meaning you don't skip any of the paragraphs in the Halal. And you make a bracha before it. The Rambam says it here, even though we'll see that the Rambam is usually the opinion when you skip that you don't make a bracha. You make the bracha at Hashem, and the kingdom of Moyer. It's a Halal. Notice what he says, not likrois halal, but ligmor. Let's go down to the Peirush. This is Bain, both if he read it alone or he reads it in public. Because there's a question as to whether you read the halal in public, even though the kriyas halal is a mitzvah midivrei seifim, you make a brocha shekiddushanu mitzvah mitzivonu that God commanded us. Just like you make the bracha on the Megillah and on Eruv, which is also the Rabbanon. So we have now Chanukah, Purim, Hallel, and Eruv is 4 mitzvahs. And when there's a chutzah, meaning we have a few houses, so you make a special Eruv that people should be able to carry from the house to the chutzah. They shouldn't, unless they come to a mistake that they can carry from their house to the street. And there, he says that when he takes it together, he makes a bracha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't command us with his mitzvahs. My Mishnah cites Erchen, days that a person completes the Hallel, these are them, and etc. He cites all of them, and also the 8 days of Chanukah. And the Rif writes it as well. The Agos Maimonides, the Tur in 644, writes that in the 8 days of Sukkot, you complete the Hallel. You make the brocha. Ligmor is a Hallel, the same language the Rambam uses, whether you're uttering it in public or privately. Mahamad Rottenberg says likchois, because it's a chash, and if he leaves out one letter, he will be levatolo. The Rosh says ligmor is like likchois, like Kriya Shema. V'tikkun hoya goimrin. Tikkun we used to complete or read the daven. This is the concept of davening early in the morning. So you can say ligmor. Shulchan Aruch says you make a bracha ligmor, and it was Pesach. He doesn't mention what bracha you make, but the Ramah says you make a bracha likrois. Mishnah Berurah explains that you shouldn't say ligmor, lest he leave out one word or one letter, and the bracha would be levatolo. If he says ligmor yoyotze, anyway, the Levush and the Pri Megadim say, many in Ashkenaz is always to say likroi. Go to the next page. Beis Yosef in 683 brings down from Shvili Aleket. Why do you complete Hallel and Chanukah? Because has every day has different amounts of candles. First night you light 1, second night you light 2, etc. In Erchen 10b, it says in Sukkot you complete the Hallel every day because it has different korbanos. Every day on Sukkot, the amount of korbanos that were brought, it starts off with the largest number on the first day and then it goes back, right? In Pesach, 1 day only. The other days, you only see Chatzi Hallel. Because all the days, you bring Korban Musaf. He brings another reasoning. He say all the Hallel, that the Nes was Neschanish B'chol Yom, like we find in Shabbos. That it was a new Nes, because they only had enough for one night, so the first night when it remained, the second day is a new Nes, etc., each night. That's why we say Hallel each day. A further reason, we read the Korbanos Hanasim, and every Nasi brought a different, even though it was the same Korbanos, each Nasi brought it separately. And if you're going to read the idea of the Nosi, that's why you read the Hallel. Because on that day, for the Nosi, it was the concept of Hallel, and that's why people after, in Nisan, when they read it, they mention the Nosi. There are people who have a meaning in the first 12 days of Nisan, which is the time that they dedicated the Mishkan. Each day you read from that Nosi, and at the end of it you say a brief prayer that the merit of that Shevet should be for us. So we see we're all part of all the Shvotim. Rambam continues, Shakol Vadai Shel Devreim. Anything that the Torah Chacham required, not out of questionable, you make a brocha on it. But something that's midrabanon, and the main reason for doing it is because of Suffolk, that he enacted it because of Suffolk, like Ma'aseh Mai, you don't make a brocha on it. Hilchos Ma'aseh, he says, in the days of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, the Bezdin HaGadol went and checked the entire Eretz Yisrael, and they saw that everybody is very careful about Truma Gedolah, which is the first tithe for the Kohen Gadol, for the Kohen. It's called Truma Gedolah, and it's either 1/40th or 1/50th or 1/60th. But when it came to the tithe for the Levium and the tithe that has to be brought up to Yerushalayim, and in the third year or the sixth year, it's Ma'aseh Oni, which you have to give to the poor people. The people who were not learned said, who's going to ask you for it? And they didn't do it, and therefore they didn't even separate it. Therefore they made an edict that no one is believed about Ma'ases, only those that you know for sure will do it. But if an Amorit sold fruit, we have to assume that he perhaps did not take off the true Ma'ases, and they're not believed to say we did it. And that's why it's called Demai. Demai is a questionable, like a question. Domai, what is this? If these fruits, are they tithed or not? And when you take off the Demai, or the Trumas Meiser, meaning if you take off the portion for the Levi, you have to take off from that portion another tenth for the Kohen, or Meiser Sheni, you don't make a brocha because it's a suffix. So there's a question, why do you make a brocha on Yom Tov Sheni? And it's only because of suffix. That's what the Rambam asked the question. And the answer is so that people will not be lax in it. The Bezdin that was Mekadosh the Chodesh Apiriyah would send out, when they did it Apiriyah, they would send out shlichim to Chutz La'aretz as far as they could get to tell you when Rosh Chodesh is, so you'll know when Sukkot is, when Pesach is, etc. And we'll turn the page of the Hilchos Chanukah. The Rambam states, wherever the shlichim arrived, then they would only keep one day of Yom Tov. As it says in the Torah, one day is the obligation. Where they were distant, shlichim didn't get there, they make 2 days, because they're not sure, because they didn't know which day was Rosh Chodesh, which would make a difference when is the 15th of the month. Therefore, in Chutz La'aretz they made 2 days, and you make on the brocha just on Kiddush, just to be sure that everybody understands that they have to keep it with the same exacting measures that they keep it the first day. The Magen Mishnah cites the source that if we know for sure you make a brocha, in Shabbos 23a, that they asked them brocha v'tzivon al hadik ner Chanukah, where do we find it? The Gemara says, one of the Taryag mitzvahs, one of the 613 precepts is that you should listen to the Rabbanan, to the rabbis, and not do otherwise. From this we learn that we have to listen to them. And now Yitzchak learns it from Shalavicha v'Yagedcha, from a different posik. In Hilchos Brochas, he says every mitzvah that over the Rabbanan, whether it's obligatory midrabon, like reading the Megillah, and Halacha is Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah. So we have another one, Ner Shabbos as well. You have Mikra Megillah, Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah. Both mitzvahs that are not obligatory, like such as Erev, because you don't have to make an Erev, you just can't carry if you don't make it. So it's Yadayim, washing your hands, you don't have to eat bread, you can eat something else. You make everything a bracha before them. Even though it's rabbinical, where did he command us? In the Torah, because it says, everything that they will tell you to do, you should do. Thus, we see that the way it works is, he commanded us, we should listen to the Rabbanon, who commanded us to read the Megillah, to light Ner Chanukah, and similarly any other mitzvahs that are Rabbanon. The Torah commanded us to do it because the Chacham told us we should do it. And the Rambam says, just like you make a bracha on Megillah on Erev, Megillah, which is obligatory, and Erev, which is Rishus, because if you're going to make an Erev, you're accomplishing the mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Go to the next page. You know, shlit, he says, Klayim is a certain type of animal which comes from either a domesticated animal or a wild animal. And so too, it's an animal which we're not sure if it's domesticated or wild, and therefore any animal which you're not sure if it's domesticated or wild, for example, a buffalo, if you shecht it, is a wild animal. If it's mixed with a cow, it's a mixture. So there's a din you have to cover the blood, but you don't make a brocha because we're not sure if it's wild. If it's a wild animal, it has to be covered. If it's a domesticated, it doesn't have to, so you don't make a brocha. Hilchos we learn also, somebody is born either with both gender organs or neither of them. You don't make a brocha leisha basuka because maybe they are feminine rather than masculine, and they were talking. It's a suffix on mitzvah Torah. You don't make a brocha because of suffix. Those brochas we say everything that we're not sure if you need a brocha, you do it without a brocha. The person should be very careful with brochas, and you should make up for the lack of brochas with brochas that you do have to make. We're continuing on Kuf Chof Beis. The Lechem Mishnah, the Kesef Mishnah site that Chochmei Luno asked the Rambam when he says that if you circumcise a child that's born with both gender organs, teaches our master it's a suffix Torah, and only on a suffix Rabbanan you don't make a brocha. But so why shouldn't you make a brocha on the milah, the bris, on an androgynous, an androgen, who has both organs? So Rambam explains that the brocha on every mitzvah is Rabbanan. The actual brocha is Rabbanan, whether it's a mitzvah midrabbanan or it's a commandment min Torah, and therefore we're not sure if the mitzvah that we're commanded or is not. It doesn't matter to us whether it's Raisa or Rabbanan, and therefore we find in Sukkah 47a that Shmini Atzeres and Chutz La'aretz. We're not sure if it's the 7th day of the festival and you sit in the Sukkah, but you don't make a brocha. Why? Because maybe it's the 8th day already, and you're not supposed to sit in the Sukkah. And from there you see that even if it's Deraisa, wherever we're not sure, you don't make a brocha. And the brocha itself has the rule of suffix d'Rabbanan l'kula, that the suffix d'Rabbanan is l'kula. And what we find in Paragraph Mem Likin, the Gemara asks, where were we commanded? And they say from Leisoso, or Shalav Yichva. We learn from both of them that every mitzvah midivrayim you make a brocha shekitshanim zoisav tzivonu. So Amram asked the question from the Mai that it's midrabanan. You still separate it without a brocha, and Abai explained that it has to have a source in the Torah, not out of doubt. There they made a bracha, like Ner Chanukah, Mikra Megillah, and Erev until Yadayim. But where something is being done, because we're not sure, like Meiser and Mai, where there was not, it wasn't done to say you have to light a Chanukah lech, or you have to read the Megillah, or if you're gonna make an erev, you want to carry, you have to make an erev. If you want to have clean hands to eat bread, you have to wash your hands. But where it's doubtful, maybe the other person didn't take tithes, then you don't make a bracha. So the Rambam asks on Abaye from Yom Tov Sheni. Here we're not sure which day it is. Maybe it's the 14th or 15th, and they still say all the brachas of davening just like Yom Tov. The answer is explained. The Gemara explains that there's a difference between Yom Tov Sheni, because there they did it to enforce the fact that you have to keep Yom Tov Sheni. We go to the next page. But other things, that the main reasoning is because of Suffolk, they did not make a brocha, and therefore they didn't make a brocha ma'aser of D'mai, because we're not sure if the Amoras took the D'mai or not. Rebbe explains, even something which is min Suffolk, the Chacham made a brocha. They were Yom Tov Sheni, because of Suffolk they made a brocha. They only didn't establish a brocha ma'aser and D'mai, because there the majority of the people did do it, and therefore we have to assume that it was done. But on a suffix, you would make a bracha if it's the Raisa. So they made a bracha for every suffix, and they didn't do it by bracha ma'aser, but on mitzvah that the ikes min Torah. We don't know if we're obligated or not. The Chacham did not enact a bracha, even though the establishment of the mitzvah is min Torah, like Shmini Atzeres. But you can make a bracha if you sit in the sukkah in Chutz La'aretz, because you want to keep the bracha misofik. They didn't make a choma bracha, and the same thing would apply to a kui, which is questionable whether it's an animal or it's a wild, a domesticated animal or a wild animal, regarding whether you have to cover the blood. So you cover it, you don't make a bracha. That's every Suffolk mitzvah. So we have here a different concept of Rav is explaining that when it's a doubt in the Deraisa, they did not enact it all the bracha. That's why you don't see it. Not because the Suffolk bracha is la'akul. As the Mishnah cites from the Ramah, Rabbeinu Meir HaLevi, that he doesn't accept this answer, and we don't know if it's the 8th day or the 7th day of Sukkot. Still, why do you make a bracha even though Suffolk, you don't make a bracha mitzvah sukkah? The Ramah asks, why do you learn from sukkah and Yom Shemini v'chutz la'aretz shaloylem v'vorchen? Learn from Yom Tov v'Yom Shemini shel sukkahs that you do make a bracha. So the Ramah explains that the 8th day of Sukkot, which is min Torah, is the last day of the Chag. And the Chacham couldn't make a bracha, you should say Leisha Basukah on a day that's actually a different Yom Tov. And therefore, you'll nullify the Deraisa by making the Rabbanon take a bracha, and that's why you can't make on Shemini Atzeres the bracha. It has nothing to do with the suffix, because of the contradiction. If you're going to say it's Sukkot, then it's not Shemini Atzeres, and we know it is today Shemini Atzeres, so they couldn't enforce saying a bracha. And with that, we have completed Halacha. By turning the page, we will continue the Oid Masbir, and furthermore, he explains, since we say in Kiddush HaYom on the 8th day of Sukkot and Tefillah Hilchos Mosdos and B'Yom HaShmini, we can't rectify it and say a bracha on Sukkot. Could one say a bracha which are two brachas which are contradictory? Either say a Sukkot or Shmini Atzeres. Even though in every Suffolk Deraisa you do need to make a bracha, with Shmini Shel Sukkot you can't make a bracha, because that would contradict what in Shmini Atzeres is Chag, and therefore you can't bring a proof from Yom Tov Shmini Shel Chag b'chutz la'aretz. You can't talk about Shmini Atzeres because that's a different category where we would be setting up something which is contradictory.